omuka say oh jisikano na ebodua say obeto abaman he nyame oye justice, God of justice. Na oko ye bosom for ho a onye hwe a obi kokase yenku manwa omo ya enye da enti nipa a wawia usika wanfani na ma o odi kakra abrel na okase bodua woji sika ni dia hwe enye o nipa wia usika ne mum ena duabodon ebebo no nipa wia usika no sa dua obebo no ono mum na duabo no bebo no because ono ena usika won ho enti sa sika no ogina odia nyame be hyirawo obeshirawo say wow usika yiraye wetimi ahwehwe esanya usika age entro ne nekre etumrika entro dikan enso bedre wiye no nokre ene bedi nkudim enti omo na ma omo kase jachi question motoma na obeko prison me ka cha mo say jachi question onko prison ne onko prison na china
Joy 99.7 FM.
Now, people are about to tell me about the organ of water. You need to check my money with you. Hey, that's any pain. Of being Ghana from Papa. And check my name with you. You will feel. They are equal to you. Second. Sa Paswa and the leader of person. Never know about that. I say before the minute you say and then you run Ghana Mra and they go and then when you are the whole Ghana and Mra and they go and then when you will be our Ghana. I send the two and then another and then all the promise answer who are going to because of way and say, nearly be maybe that. 6.5 years in the world. Nearly been a mayor. And run a chew, not you. And run a chew, not you. And then make and I will move. Some make who for quite to do more power. Now, brother, who quiet the brother. Mokoye onipa obechi aba wa ba be boa na sama esi wa ha say
Coffee in your cup and joy on the set. The Super Morning Show is always the best bet on Joy 99.7 FM.
So you heard from former President John Dramani Mahama and Danko Akufo-Addo, current president, former president, indicating that, well, look, the people of Assin North, if anybody brings them money, they should take it because that's monies that have been taken from them. This is state's money in his words, and translated loosely. These are stolen funds. They should spend the monies but do the right things. And you heard from President Akufo-Addo indicating that, look, he's not the one, prosecuting James Jachikwe is not persecuting him. It's the state that is dealing with him. That's because the state has laws, and the laws are the laws that are being used to try him just because he's not done the right thing. Let's get on to the phone line. Ben Ephson is a pollster and managing editor of the Dispatch newspaper. Ben Ephson, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and good morning to our listeners.
Great. So I know that before we get into who would even win Assin North, because I know you have done some exercise on that, let's look at the final rallies and the speeches of one former President Mahama and two Nana Akufo-Addo. Your brief analysis of that.
I think that John Mahama has taken an unnecessary risk by saying that the results of tomorrow's by-election will be a determining factor of whether the NPP government is doing well or not. What if NPP wins? you as the presidential candidate of the NDC, you're giving the NPP a weapon they will always use against you. That, I think, was one slip he may have made.
Okay.
Concerning President Akufo-Addo, obviously, the NDC has been trying to play the sympathy card. That is why he was on the defense that it was not him who is prosecuting Christians. You know, when the Christian thing started, you know, if you go to, let me give your readers an example of how you identify a swing voting area.
Okay.
If you look at the polling station results, and that area, the two parties share 44, 45, or 40, 40, that is a swing area. So when the Christian thing started, we took some constituencies, polling station results, and we were monitoring. He had sympathy. It was when some NDC people themselves came to say that Christian was disqualified in 2012 and 2016 by the NDC because of the non-renunciation of his Canadian citizenship. The sympathy some of them had for Christian ebbed away. Clearly, that ebbed away, that the NDC took an unnecessary risk because the heart of the late Adamu Sakande's judgment, which hindered on renunciation of another citizenship, I think was that when you present your forms to the Electoral Commission, you pay and you are given a receipt. At that point in time, if you have not got your renunciation, you are gone. So from our monitoring of the swing areas, you could see that that sympathy vote for Christian ebbed a bit, knowing that he had been trying since 2012 and the party itself had disqualified him.
Okay.
We have said it's a close election, but if, for example, you the one talking to me, you want to bet on Christian, and it's for two main reasons. One, Christian over the past 5-6 years has been doing some work with an NGO. He's got an NGO which has been helping people across the political divide. That puts him in good stead with swing voters in Assin North. Both Christian and Opoku are from Asin Breku.
Yes.
Now, in 2012, NDC won presidential parliamentary. 2016, MPP won parliamentary and presidential. Now, the MPP candidate is the same lady who contested 2020 and lost. She's not from Breku, and she had issues with some of his own people in Breku. So you can see that in the election to elect a candidate, he did not attempt. The two candidates who contested for the NPP slot are both from Breku. So Christian and Opoku are likely to split the Asin Breku's vote. The lady is known in a town, I've forgotten the name, outside Breku.
Asin Kushia.
Pardon?
Abner Drew is from Asin Kushia.
Now, she has been campaigning with Opoku in her constituency. These are some of the advantages that Opoku takes into tomorrow's by-election.
Okay, so let me just get a clarification here. Let me say that we're joined by Professor Kobby Mensah, who is political marketing expert at the University of Ghana Business School. Professor Kobby Mensah, good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Thanks very much.
Let me say hello to Uncle Ben.
Well, good morning, Prof.
Okay.
Morning.
And let me welcome our listeners in Kumasi listening to us on Love 99.5 FM. So, Ben Ephson, you're saying if we want to bet, we should bet on who? Charles Opoku or James Kwesing? Because earlier you said James Kwesing, but in ending you're talking about, Charles Opoku also.
No. I said it is close, but if you want to bet, you want to take a gamble, you want to bet as to, you can say that there will have to be a winner. Then you can bet on MPP Opoku.
You don't think that, the sympathy campaign and the campaign that government is deliberately, persecuting him, that they are persecuting him, would actually get people to vote for him again to come back to Parliament? He seems to be in very high spirits. He seems to be very confident that he's going to win.
Like I said, when the question trial had been starting and it was obvious that there might be a by-election, we took notice in some of the swing areas in Assin North. And revelations by some of the NDC executives themselves that they disqualified Question in 2012 and 2016 because of his non-renunciation. That has angered them against the NDC for taking an unnecessary risk that you did not see the certificate of renunciation and you presented him. The sympathy was there. But the NDC executives, the leading members, their own statements annoyed those swing voters that why should the party take such a risk in a swing constituency when you had earlier disqualified him and you push him through on the same thing? That was what, but for that statement by the NDC themselves, Kwesi would have won again. But it is close, and you see, we took the swing voters into consideration. The lady who contested and lost, he's been able to galvanize quite a bit of votes for Opoku from her area of strength. That's why I'm saying that it's close, but you have to pick a winner. We think that Opoku will go through with his own philanthropic works and the anger of swing voters at quote the recklessness of the NDC in not seeing the renunciation, having disqualified him earlier.
Great. Before I get to Professor Kobby Mensah, now, would you say that this election is a referendum on the performance of the government? Hello, Ben.
Hello, yes, pardon?
Yeah, if you can hear me, I'm asking you that, you talked about the point that Mahama made earlier, and I'm asking your own view, whether you see this election as a referendum on the performance of the government.
Oh, I don't think so. 17 months to elections, there are a lot of ifs and buts getting to there, like selection of candidates for NPP from Mahama has not picked his running mate. But Mahama's own words will come to haunt him. I think that as the candidate, it was too risky politically to say that the Assin North is going to be a reflection of the performance of the NPP government.
Okay.
What if NPP wins tomorrow? Can you stand up and criticize them when by your own? Mahama is not a novice in politics. He's been a member of parliament for a long time. I mean, he knows his way about in politics. So for him, as the candidate, to have made such a risky statement in such a close election, it may come to haunt him towards 2024. Because the 17 months, there are a lot of ifs and buts. The I's have not been dotted towards 2024 elections. So I think there is a risky statement that he made, from my point of view.
Okay. Let me bring Professor Kobby Mensah in here and find out. Professor Kobby Mensah, so I know you've been following the campaign. Let's look at the messaging in here. Looks like the whole campaign messaging has been focused on whether or not he goes to jail, he won't go to jail. You need somebody who can, represent you, not somebody who's going to court. What's been your analysis? I mean, what's your analysis of the campaign messaging over the period in Assin North?
All right, thank you very much. I think that over the period, we have actually complained about the decadence in our political messaging, especially some kind of unwarranted messages that the people do not want. I mean, currently as we speak, majority of Ghanaians are battling with economic situations. I mean, income levels are dwindling, ability to pay completely not there. So when you find politicians reducing the most important, talk about, political, activity in our lives, that is voting, and reducing it to such a level. I mean, we have complaints several times, and it looks like they are not taking any clues from that. I don't think that, campaigning with whether someone will go to jail or not, would really get a voter, to get to the polls. You rather want to touch on what concerns them. The idea that we're battling a certain economic, impact. That is what will get people excited. And that's why we keep seeing turnout reducing, because the politicians aren't talking about the most crucial stuff in people's lives.
Great. So let's get back to, a point that Ben Ephson made earlier about, Mahama's comment that this will be a reflection, the votes in Assin North will be a reflection on how well the government is performing. And he says that could prove suicidal, because if the government wins, then these could be used against him. You share same view?
Well, I would differ from that position. Of course, the very reason why people go to the polls is to better their lot, and that is economic position. So clearly, we couldn't actually analyze, whether someone will vote or not based on the demographics alone. Obviously, it plays a role, but very crucial reasons why people go to the polls is their development. And so perhaps, Mahama would be right to say that, the economic messaging would be very, very impactful in terms of people's decision to vote. But I wouldn't say that it would be a referendum. Usually when we talk about referendum in terms of elections, that a certain poll will be a referendum on the government, we expect a landslide, first of all. We expect that the voting population, for example, is a replica of the national. I don't think Assin North actually reflects the national character by what we know in terms of certain characteristics of constituencies. There are some constituencies that that it reflects national thinking. They reflect national character, for example. I haven't actually seen or come across any analysis that actually put Assin North as a replica of the general Ghanaian populace in terms of electoral performance or electoral instances. So I wouldn't go as far as saying it would be a referendum, but certainly the economic question will feature prominently in people's decisions, other than many other factors, and perhaps that's where former President Mahama is coming from. Whether if they lose, that is, if NDC loses, that it will be a bad reflection on the former president. Of course, it will call into question his analysis of it, but I don't think that it will be so impactful, judging from the kind of constituency we're talking about. There are some constituencies that are very prominent, and so statements and activities there sort of captivate national attention, and so it would be very grave. But judging from what we know about Assin North, in fact, the election in Assin North, I don't think had really captivated the attention of Ghanaians, than others would look like. So the huge impact, I don't think it would be very, very huge, but certainly it will question his analysis of that particular, constituency in terms of the results. But I believe that he's coming from a position where, the intensity of the NDC's campaign over there is sort of giving him some conviction. And I had actually said that if you look at the kind of intensity NPP sent to Kumewu, for example, you do not see the same intensity in Assin. And that actually plays some kind of, or gives some kind of indication that they are not so confident in Assin North as they were with Kumewu. And of course, rightly so, because Kumewu was a stronghold. Assin North is not a stronghold. Assin North is give and take between NDC and NPP. I mean, I think it's on a balance of 4-3 in favor of NPP. And so it looks like, judging from the recent elections, i.e., 2020, although the margins was not actually massive, but clearly having the same candidate and perhaps his performances over the period that he won perhaps gives the NPP a certain indication that this is a very tough one to call, and so the less intensity as they did in Kumewu. So for me, I think that yes, Mahama was actually coming from a position of insight, having been there. And don't forget, they have been there. That is, the NDC's machinery had been in Assin North from day one. In contrast, to the MPPs, because I just saw MPP's big weight going to Assin North just about yesterday. But you see NDC had been so intense in that constituency. And I think that's the position that the former president is actually coming from, with that kind of insight.
Okay.
But I don't think that is a referendum, actually.
Well,
I don't think that if it goes the other way, it would have a huge impact on the former president.
But Professor Kobby Mensah, the NPP has actually been in Assin North too. I'm aware of a lot of, the big guns of the party moving to Assin North, 2 weeks ago, some 3 weeks ago, others a week ago. They've been campaigning.
They have been, but when you compare that to Kumewu, I don't think that you would see it's on the same scale. And if you look at the comparison between them and the NDC, I don't think that it would say that it's on the same scale. I think NDC has been much more intense in Assin North than the NPP has been. And that's the kind of analysis I was making.
Let me bring Ben Ephson in at this point. I'll get back to you, Professor Kobby Mensah. Let me find out if he agrees that the NDC is more intense in Assin North. What's your position, Ben Ephson?
Well, I think that Assin North, Kumewu, anybody who thought that NDC had a chance in Kumewu would have been joking, Clearly, Kumewu is an NPP stronghold. Assin North has proven to be swing, and 2024 will be close, and NDC believes that they have a chance of winning, and if they win Assin North, it will be a huge political statement. What I'm saying about Mahama's statement should have come somebody else than a seasoned politician like him and being the presidential candidate. So yes, NDC thinks that they have a chance of winning tomorrow. So you can see the intensity there. Yes, I mean, you realize that the NPP realized their mistake. So the lady even didn't contest. He had contested twice, won in 2016 and lost in 2020. He didn't even contest the NPP primary. So both of them coming from Breku, Opoku's advantage over the other person was that he had been doing some philanthropic work for some years. So Assin North is going to be intense tomorrow. I'm sure that there will be a lot of security in Assin North tomorrow. And if you are listening to me on Joy, and any of the two parties comes to you that go and ferment trouble in Assin North, tell them to let one of their children accompany you. Because if you mess up tomorrow, you'll be faced heavily. So if any politician calls you and says, tomorrow, go and do this untoward, tell that politician to let one of his or her children come to Assin North. Tomorrow to be tense, and I hope that everybody will behave.
Okay. Professor Kobby Mensah, from your point of view, who's likely to win?
Hello? Say it again, sir.
Yes, I'm asking you, Professor Kobby Mensah, from your point of view, Professor Mensah, who's likely to win from your own analysis?
Well, I haven't actually done a poll to really glean from the ground who is likely to come on top, but I could actually sense from a certain, national sentiment on the polls that we've been collecting generally. I mean, currently we're collecting a poll, and there's a high sense towards the NDC as opposed to NPP, but that's not a reflection of us enough. So I have to be clear. But then I can actually use certain, kind of signals to judge. And these are my three signal points. I mean, you're looking at the belief, of winning that seat between NPP and NDC. And I think the belief is on the side of the NDC, judging how intense they have been in that community. Secondly, this is an incumbent. I mean, and it's not one of the sloppy incumbents that you would think that, people are already angry with him. I mean, you don't see, community of the Assin North being angry with the current MP. Even if you have to stretch it, it looks like there's quite a lot of, empathy on his side. based on what he's done in the community and based on the fact that he's in court. So you find that the tapes or the footage that is actually coming from the community, of course, I could be wrong, but it looks like there is not that kind of anger against him. And that actually puts him in a poor position. Now, thirdly, there is a general discontent against the government itself. That is not any secret, or that is not, anything that nobody. People do not know. All of us are very much aware that the government is not in the good books of many people, including the people of Assin North. So, if you take away the demographies, which of course the demography, both candidates actually share the same origin, where they come from. And then if you add the other things that I've talked about, the economic issues, the sentiment against the government, obviously the kind of empathy that people are sharing for the MP, I think that it puts rather the NDC's MP, NDC's candidate ahead of the NPP without any, poll conducted, as I said. From my reflection, I think this is what I can take.
How about the incumbency advantage also of the NPP itself? Now, they are in government and so have a lot of resources at their disposal which they could make available to their candidates.
Absolutely. I mean, we have seen that happening. Obviously, Kumewu big time. And, of course, clearly going on at Assin North. I saw some, images yesterday with regards to the roads minister, being on the ground at a point. We have clearly seen, government making use of incumbency, buying votes. But of course, the people know what has actually, what has happened in Kumewu. I'm sure very much aware from the reports that we have. People are complaining that the development project that they started right after the election, they pulled out. There's a suggestion that even the traditional authorities that are complaining, I don't know how far it's true because I haven't actually verified it. But of course, there's a suggestion like that. So if that should go on the ground, I'm sure the people of Asin would definitely know that it is a certain gimmick to buy their votes. And so if we put all those things together, yes, the incumbency advantage, but people can revolt, knowing that it is not something that is going to be sustainable, going forward after the election. So I would still think that NDC's candidate has an upper hand.
Okay. Anything you want to say finally, Ben Ephson, as we bring it to a close?
Hello?
Yes, Ben Ephson, finally from you.
Oh, I think that it will be interesting tomorrow in Assin North. You can see that the NDC is very serious about the seat, unlike Kumewu, that they tried, but I don't think that even if NPP wins tomorrow, 17 months to elections, it is not a good indicator, John Mahama has said. Yes, it will show that the NPP has the goodwill, but 17 months to elections, result of a by-election in the swing constituency will not be the final determinant. So in the same way, I think if NDC wins tomorrow, it's not a determinant towards 2024. It will be good for bragging rights. That's all.
All right. Thank you very much, Ben Ephson, for joining us. Ben Ephson, Pollster and Managing Editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper, and Professor Kobby Mensah, who is political marketing expert at the University of Ghana Business School. Thank you. And so you heard from Professor Kobby Mensah and Ben Ephson making the point, Professor Kobby Mensah making the point that even though he's not conducted a poll, he will use 3 indicators to actually say that the NDC is likely, or James Jachikwesin is likely to win this election. The fact that the NDC has more belief than the NPP and the incumbent member of parliament. Now, people are not angry with James Jachikwesin. They know that James Jachikwesin has been in court all this while And so it's not a case of he neglecting them, and so the people are not angry with him. And finally, the discontent within the country, people not very happy with the economic situation. He believes that all of these things would go a long way in helping the NDC's James Gyakye to win. Ben Assin is also making the point that, well, if you look at it critically, the fact that the NPP's candidate comes from Asin Breku, and he's been engaged in a lot of philanthropy over the period, and also the fact that some NDC executive indicated that James Gyakye was disqualified in 2012 and 2016, the people have become angry with him and angry with their party, and they're asking the question, so why did you bring him in 2020? Well, we'll be going to the grounds shortly. We'll be speaking to our men on the ground. We'll be telling us the situation on the ground. They are in Asin Breku. We're told that Asin Breku is going to be the decider this time around. So they're in Asin Breku. They'll be telling us what has transpired within the last 48 hours in the whole constituency and what the grounds are looking like today. So let's get on to the phone lines now, because Richard Kojo-Nyako is joining us all the way from Assin North. I'm sure he's in Asin Breku by now. Richard, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Winston.
Great. So I know that you've been in the constituency over the last week, and you've been monitoring happenings in the constituency. Give us a picture of happenings in Assin North prior to the elections.
Come again, Winston.
I am asking you to give us, tell us what has been happening, activities in Assin North prior to the elections tomorrow.
So thank you very much. So we are currently in the Assin North, precisely Assin Breku, the constituency and the district capital. The big campaigns are over. They were over yesterday. As at midnight, the big political parties were still campaigning. So it started here at Assin Breku. There was a big rally attended by the president, Nana Danko Akufo-Addo, the vice, the chief of staff, other ministers of state, members of parliament, all of them. So it was like the entire presidency had come to the Assin North constituency. In fact, the president indicated that he was not responsible for the predicament of George Gyakye, and for him, it was self-inflicted. If he monitored what happened to Adamu Dramani Sakante, it's the same way that he is also going. So he is not the one that is going to say that he will go to prison, but they should vote for someone who will not be embroiled in some legal issues that every day the person will have to go to court or go to any other legal forum. And then from the camp of the former president, as at midnight last night, he was still moving from one community to the other, saying that George Gyakye did not do anything wrong. It was something that was orchestrated and all of that. And so George Gyakye is not going to prison. We are live here at the school park here at Asin Breku. Let me engage some of the constituents to know where exactly they are talking towards. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, who are you voting for tomorrow?
I'm voting for Charles Opoku.
Tell me why.
Because of what he has done. Most importantly, before even he coming to contest for these elections, he has impacted positively into the lives of a lot of people. Vocational training, paying school fees of people was. Apart from that, he submitted his own structure for the district assembly. And apart from that one too, he has also put in a lot of people into apprenticeship. And I'm telling you, for what he has done, I'm going to vote for him. And most importantly, he is a native here who has donated school bells to Asin State College, to Jassy Senior High School, and where he hailed from, that is his alma mater, Assin North Senior High School. He has paid some of money. He has also given them paint to renovate the school. And I'm telling you, for what he has done, I'm going to vote for him.
Didn't you say same for George Gyakye when he came? You called him Boga, and he was doing a lot of things in the constituency. What I can mention here, they point to, is the street lights that is over here. Didn't you say the same thing? Why are you now siding with Charles Opoku?
You know, whilst I was interacting with my colleagues over here, I told them that if it is because of the fixing of bulbs, they should go and apologize to Honorable Abinadruwa, because he was able to fix a lot of bulbs for the 4 years. But the promises Mr. Kwesi gave was very juicy, and as a result, they voted for him. But now, this is his hometown. For the 1.5 years he was an MP, He received a salary. Common fund was released to him for the 1.5 years. But ask him, one single project he was able to initiate over here in Asin. Just one single project over here.
I've got another person here. So why should people vote for George Achikwesi?
Okay, so I think the wonderful people of Assin North need to vote for George Achikwesi for development, for continuity. You understand? You always need a leader who has the people at heart. That is very one important thing we should be looking at. We need a leader who is not self-centered. You understand? We need a leader who has the interests of the people. Someone who has a Canadian citizenship. You and I will know fairly that, look, living in Canada is far better than living in Ghana under the leadership of President Nana Akufo-Addo. But this person denounced his citizenship as a Canadian just to serve the wonderful people of Assin North.
People here, some of them say that it appears that he didn't do things right in order to marry them.
But you and I know that it is not his fault. There was an administrative error that happened, and even the certificate came in somewhere in November, and the election took place in December. You understand?
The Apex Court has given their decision that he did not qualify at the time of filing to contest.
But per my basic knowledge, reading the Constitution, I feel he qualifies. But I'm not a legal student. I'm not a lawyer or a law student. So I don't really want to dive deep into law when it comes to this issue. Yes, they've taken their decision. There is a by-election. All we have to do is that he just has to come on ground to work and retain the seat. We shouldn't allow anyone subject the will of the people. We will not allow it, because look, the people believe that this election is between the NPP and the NDC. And yes, so the election is being supervised or is being monitored by the NPP, because we see the Electoral Commission as NPP and SA. So therefore, we just need to be vigilant.
Can't say that you don't have any evidence to back this one.
No, you see clearly. When you see an Electoral Commission that is supposed to be fair and transparent, but in 2020, 6 different results were released for one election.
Let's focus our attention in this particular constituency.
I'm coming back to Assin North. So clearly all I'm trying to say is that we need to vote for someone who is a visionary. We need to vote for someone who has the people at heart. For that mere sacrifice, if it's someone who said, after all, what? They've taken me off office. They said there's going to be a by-election. I'll step aside. Whatever they want to do, they should. But he has said it clearly that...
You see him contesting as a risk, he said?
Yes. He contesting Assin North seat. It's a race. This should clearly say that this person has dedicated...
What kind of risk thing is?
No, clearly you and I know he is still in court, and even prior to this election, at a point they wanted him to appear in court on a daily basis. So how would he be there for his people? You understand? These things were not taken into consideration. So when he goes to Parliament, we are also looking at the fact that today he's in court, tomorrow he's being dragged back and forth, which would clearly frustrate him as a member of Parliament. You understand? He has to lose touch with his people at a point and all have you. But yes, so he has decided that, look, for all things be equal, I'll put my life on the line. Even if they want to jail me, even if they want to kill me, they should go ahead. I'll serve my people here in Assin North.
Thank you very much. So, Winston, you had the two debates, the two arguments, one from the NPP, one from the NDC. They are saying that they are advancing reasons why their candidate should be voted for.
When you talk to the people, I mean, these are, NPP, NDC arguments, but when you go down and speak to the people, what do you gather from Asin Breku?
Well, so it's a mix. They appear to be advancing the same argument these two people we spoke to earlier have been advancing. For some of them, they know Charles Opoku. He stayed with them. He's engaged in NGO activities, drilling boreholes for other people, giving a structure to house the district assembly when the district was first created. For the other group, they also feel that George Achikwesi denied himself all the opportunities, all the luxuries, and then came down from Canada. He is called Boga when you come to Assin Breku. They all hail from the same place, Assin Breku. And even when he was engaged in the legal tussle, he was doing a lot of them. One critical thing that they credit him with was that Assin Breku was very dark, and he provided light for them, and for which reason they feel that he should be voted for. But for some of them too, they feel that he's been ill-treated. He's not been treated very well, and this is the chance for them to vote for him again, to go and continue what he already started.
How about the security situation there? When we're told that the IGP is there in Assin North, getting there now. When you go around there, how do you assess the security situation?
Well, so I can tell you that for every 15 steps that you take, you meet a security person. So you will see their vehicles moving to and fro. They've erected barriers that they do regular checking of the vehicles that pass and all of that. So up for security, you can see them. They are very visible on the ground here. But I tell you what, it is not only this place that the security personnel are. They are in the hinterlands. You know that if you look at the way these people vote from 2012 up to 2020, by the roadside, it's NPP that wins. But if you go to the hinterlands, it's the NDC that wins the seat. And so they are all doing everything they can. Yesterday, I told you that the former president was on the ground. I mean, one community to the other, telling them that George Achikwesin is not going to prison. No matter what, he will not go to prison. And so they should ignore everything that the other people are saying, that when they vote for George Achikwesin, he will go to prison. But the president, when he was also saying, speaking during their rally to cap the entire campaign of the NPP, he indicated that, well, he is not the one responsible, and the NPP is not the one responsible. It is just the law that has caught up with George Achikwesin, and they should live with it.
Now, is there a feeling of people, I mean, do you get the feeling that people are willing to go out there and vote?
Yes. So you see the passion in the eyes, the passion with the way they speak, how they speak passionately about this election. For them, the election means two things for them. One, that it has brought attention of the entire country to them, because for the entire period that the Electoral Commission declared that a by-election should take place here, they've seen some kind of movement. It boosts their business. People are selling and others are buying. The hotels, right from the Assin Central to the Assin North, all the hotels are full. People are cooking and other people are buying. They've also seen their road, seeing bitumen, the roads that were not tarred, the roads are seeing bitumen. They've also seen that kind of energy that has been exerted into the road construction and other constructions that are currently happening here. The other one is that, well, they are also enjoying the fact that they will get a new member of parliament who will also come, whether George Achikwesin, so that the person will have 4 clear years and then will be able to execute whatever he or she wants to execute.
Great, but finally, talking about you've talked about the towns along the road, the highway voting for the NPP, and those within the hinterlands. What are these towns that are within the hinterlands that vote NDC?
Well, so the NPP, so you see Charles Opoku, the NPP they tell us that Charles Opoku has been to the hinterland. So they feel that should the NPP increase their votes in these communities that are lying by the roadside, they are surely going to win. And they told me the scientific methods that they have used using data. So for the NPP, they know that they are winning. They know the numbers that are voting for them and all of that. If you speak with the NDC too, they also advance saying that they have also put structures and measures in place to ensure that tomorrow they are winning. You know, the stakes are really, really high for the NPP. So they lose, then it will affect their campaign towards the 2024 hugely, and in Parliament because their numbers will be whittled by one. But they are seeking to get one more number to enable them do business and do very good business in Parliament. But for the NDC, they want to maintain this seat so that we can have that kind of equilibrium in Parliament. And so it's really a huge thing for the people here, a big deal for the people here. And the residents say they are going out in their numbers. It's been raining incessantly in this community, in this constituency for the past 2 weeks. But today, it's not raining and the sun is very high. And they feel that tomorrow, God should grant them the sun. It shouldn't rain so that they can go out in their numbers and vote.
Well, Richard Kojonyako, thank you very, very much for joining us. We're very grateful. That's Joy News reporter Richard Kojonyako in the Assin North constituency, Asin Breku to be precise. So lots of conversations have centered around Assin North over the past month, particularly when it became very clear that we're going to have a by-election in that constituency. And of course, Assin North is in the news because, one, if the NDC wins Assin North, it means It restores their numbers to 137. If the NPP wins, it means they get 138 plus the independent, that's 139. What that would mean is that the NPP can now actually feel that, look, we have that majority. Okay, you know what the NPP has been through when any of their members is not around, and because of 137, it's been a difficult situation for them. Now, let's look at the candidates, okay? We're looking at James Jachikwason. He won the election in 2020 with some 3,000 vote margin. But in that same election, President Akufo-Addo of the NPP also won the constituency with some 1,000 vote margin. So you can actually say that James Jachikwason won the seat with more votes than President Akufo-Addo. But for the NPP, it becomes one of those seats where you've seen a skirt and blouse situation. And they say that's an indication that we can actually win that seat. In fact, they make reference to that particular constituency being part of the 19 constituencies which President Akufo-Addo won in the 20 elections in the central region, but the NPP candidates lost. If you look at the NPP with 10 seats in the central region, coupled with the NDC's 13, and the fact that Akufo-Addo won 19 of those constituencies, you probably will be asking yourself the simple question, so what happened that President Akufo-Addo was winning in constituencies and the NPP not winning in those parliamentary elections? One thing that comes to mind, and one thing you would have seen in the Assin North constituency, is that the NPP then decides to change its candidate. Now, that is strategic. It is strategic because the NPP recognized that, look, ordinarily, Asin Breku would have voted for the NPP. But with the NDC fielding a candidate from that particular constituency, who was James Jachikwason in the 2020 general elections, James Jachikwason winning 12 out of the 13 polling stations in Asin Breku. Mind you, President Akufo-Addo also won 12 of those, polling stations. But why does it matter? It matters because in parliamentary elections, look, parliamentary elections are the elections where you look at the person's standing, and that person's standing is actually known within that community. It doesn't matter whether you're a member of a political party or not. There are times that you actually vote for people based on where they come from. And that's why you would see political parties making decisions sometimes on where their candidates should come from, the identifiable groups that he could be in. You've seen political parties choosing people from settler communities just to make a difference. So what does Charles Opoku bring on board? In Charles Opoku, the NPP has a candidate who hails from the same place as James Jachikwason, and so all things being equal, could probably split the votes or even get more votes in Asin Breku than James Jachikwason. Now, he also, based on his philanthropic activities over the period, seems to enjoy a lot of support. Now, the NPP goes into this election with incumbency advantage. For many people, you may want to discredit it and say, well, they have the incumbency, but times are hard. But what incumbency advantage does in a by-election is that it gives you an opportunity to focus on just that constituency. And this is not a constituency that you would say is a stronghold of the NDC. For instance, so let me give you a typical example. In 2006, when the NPP was in power at the time, and Professor Wayoseni had decided to, resign from the NDC, then Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, the NPP did not even go into that election. They decided to throw their weight behind Professor Wayoseni, believing that as an independent candidate he could win. Okay, now where the party knows that they are unlikely to win, they don't put much effort into it. This is a swing constituency, having been, you could actually argue, was created in 2012 more or less, because while Asin Central was what was created, because initially we had Assin North and Asin South, in that 2012, after the creation of Asin Central, the NDC won it. By 2016, they had lost it. People may have argued that was part of the wind of change, but the figures from 2020 would show you that probably if the NPP had put in the right candidate, they could have won it. So the incumbency advantage favors the NPP. Today you've seen the developmental projects in Assin North all of a sudden, and if anybody tells you they do not matter, I am sorry, they do matter. It's the reason you hear John Dramani Mahama make the point that, look, when they bring you money, take the money, but don't vote for them. Because incumbency advantage and money really, really matters in an election. 3, James Gyakye himself, presents a certain advantage and disadvantage to the NPP. This is the point. Now, once James Gyakye puts himself up for election, or has put himself up for election, the NPP's argument is this. He says, over the period, they've been persecuting me. Okay, not prosecuting, persecuting me, hence my inability to function effectively as a member of parliament. Now, the counter argument is, no, hold on a minute, is the laws that have actually been used on this man. But if he tells you that because of his court cases, he's not been able to perform effectively as a member of parliament, then note that even if he wins, he's still not done with the court cases and could probably find himself in jail. Now, this is what this does. This is somebody who is campaigning and saying, I'm actually going through all these challenges because of what I've been going through in the court. And you're being reminded that, oh, then he's not done yet with the court. Because if this is what he's going through, in fact, now he's going to be on a daily basis. So he's even going to go to court some more than he's been going to court in the past. He would have no chance whatsoever, no time whatsoever on his hands to perform his functions as a member of parliament. That in itself, for some of the, electorates would say, why should we be the only people who are not going to have a member of parliament? How about we vote for another person who's going to get in there and will not be faced with a similar situation? But this is the advantage to the NDC here. So this man comes into the community, contests and wins elections. And they say, this man right from the get-go was targeted by the NPP. In fact, on the 6th of January 2021, when Parliament was being sworn in, the NPP members actually secured an injunction. So right from the get-go, they have targeted this man. They are the reason why he has not been able to function effectively. But if you vote for him this time around, show them that you, the people of Assin North, actually love James Gyakye and you would want him to serve you. The NDC also comes into this with a point to prove. Now, as you may have heard John Dramani Mahama make the point that this is more of a referendum. They could be telling the delegates, and the delegates would want to prove, the electors would want to prove a point to the government and say, enough. Okay, enough of all the sufferings we've been through. So whatever you do, we are still going to vote for the NDC in the person of James Gyakye. Now, I've talked about Asin Breku, but one of the things that many of you may not be aware is the settler communities, some of whom are ever speaking, and particularly the Dangme speaking group in Assin North. Now, where will these people vote? Can the NPP increase their votes in there? If the NPP increases their vote in the settler communities, particularly in the Dangme areas, then about 7 or 8 communities that are Dangme in Assin Breku, in Assin North constituency. If the NPP is able to increase their votes there, you probably would say the elections do not look good for the NDC. However, if the NDC is able to maximize or improve their performance in those areas also, you would see the situation where you'd say, no, it doesn't look good for the NPP. Whatever happens tomorrow in the Assin North constituency, I say, based on all the analysis that I have done, that while it is going to be a close election, while this is a swing constituency, it is becoming very difficult for the NDC to win the election. Also because of how the NDC itself has, conducted its campaign. One of the things they've done, a lot of the young people who have gone in there to campaign, is to showcase everything that they're doing on the ground. And if you're an opposition party which doesn't have the largesse of the state with you, when you go into a campaign, you just don't go there, okay, showcasing everything. You just don't go there telling people all your strategies and whatever you do. So social media campaign in most of these instances just don't work for the party that does not have a lot of money. I'll tell you something. In 2003, okay, when Kofi Asante resigned from Parliament, the NDC went into that election at the time, and as evidence from that constituency has shown, the NDC has been able to win it subsequently, that in a by-election, an incumbent government or party can do so many things just to win it. And it is that incumbency advantage that I say favors the NPP going into the election tomorrow. I see the NPP winning this election I say it will be very difficult for the NDC. But of course, these are elections and anything can happen.